10011105. I'm doing a lot of important work right now.
Affirmative.
What? This show fucking sucks.
Take us to warp.
Take us to warp. We're gonna die.
You broke it.
No, it's quite all right. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Chill. What are you doing? You actually have to read the labels.
I know what I'm doing. I build machines for a living.
You must break the Prime Directive.
It's illogical.
Break it.
We have to find Gromit.
We've been over this. Gromit's not here.
He's somewhere out there.
He's moved on to the next world.
Well then, let's plot a course, shall we?
No, you don't understand. Gromit's
To the next
dead.
world.
How you doing?
I'm scanning for intelligent life.
I'm scared of you. Are you scared of me?
Get the dog.
Come back here. I'm scared of you.
Get the fuck away from me.
I'm scared of you. You got scammed, girl. Ooh, good stuff. All right, who next? About to get scammed, boy. Another successful scam. I scanned everyone. I am the captain now. Computer, on program.
What the fuck?
That's what happens when you fuck with me.
Jesus Christ.
Is this real life?
Or is
Or
it
is
just
this
fantasy?
No.
Caught in a landslide.
No escape from reality.
Anyway, the wind blows, boy.
It doesn't even matter. To me. Mama.
Peoples, non-peoples, humanoids, animes, flying thingies. Welcome to another exciting episode of ENDGAME.
And there's lots of excitement that's happening. What a good intro.
Tonight's hosts are Poplopo, Psych, and Mad Max.
Today we're talking about the internet,
That's nice.
and we want to start with the community spotlight.
Okay.
So yeah,
Which
what's
way
your
you
kind of
guys-
perspective on where things are heading?
Well, I think I have like more positive perspective. Like a lot of stuff we have to go through really, really difficult, hard times to embrace the goodness that will come after. Like right now, I think we're heading down, losing human rights and like left and right. And there's a lot of stuff that is really kind of harmful to us that's happening. And I think because the only way to evolve is to be at that like bottom, because you have no choice but to evolve, you know what I mean? Because humans are kind of lazy, you know, if we have a choice of like doing something and like not doing something, for the most part, everyone's like, oh, I don't want to do that, you know what I mean? But if you have no choice, like in the matter, biologically, I think that it will happen. There's the pineal gland, which is referred to as like the third eye. At some point, we will be able to like really engage with that part of our brains and be able to relate to each other on more just knowing people's kind of vibrations. I know that sounds really crazy, but like I think that's something that will evolve in us, whether either through technology and connecting with each other or like its own organic way of coming through, then I think we will be more connected. But it's going to take a while to get there. Like a while.
So eventually we're going to be able to reach our potential, but we're going to have to go through some ups and downs and maybe some big downs before we do that.
And I think like technology will definitely help us get there. I just see like right now I see two different kind of types of people where there's more empathetic people that are really like wanting to connect with each other on like, you know, more than just a superficial kind of basis. And then there's people that are just like, you know, they like hate everybody and they're just very self-centered and about like that kind of thing. And like, we're going to be building like the more technologically advanced that we get, like we're going to put ourselves out of work. So like we have no other option. Like technology will allow us to rethink like how we live our lives and what's important to us, you know?
you mentioned the people who are, negative and stuff. Do you think that some of this connection will change the people who are inclined to be negative to, be more connected and positive?
I think there'll be no other choice for them, really. I think those people will wean out eventually. Like, I think over time we've been weaning out, kind of those people. I mean, they pop up, but for the most part, like we look at stuff that's happened like recently, and it's like tragedy, but like the majority of people are like reaching out and really thinking about like kind of embracing like other people's situations. The small, minute group of like horrible people get like all the press. You know what I mean? Like people don't want to hear like good stories, because it's not like sensationalized.
I feel like that could be a good lead into our topic, if you don't mind.
No, that's totally fine.
We are going to be talking about the internet, and that's definitely one of the expressions that the internet has allowed. Like whenever tragedies happen, when bad things happen, when any worldwide events happen, before the internet, we saw a news report about it, or we read about it on the newspaper, both really clinical, just descriptions of what's going on. But then on the internet, there's just 1,000,001 people who have things to say about it, about their personal feelings, and we have access to so many different perspectives that we just didn't have access to before. That seems like a kind of a connection that we've reached with each other through technology.
Yeah, for sure. I would have to agree. Like, because we wouldn't know, like, all of the different stories and the emotions behind those stories, like we're able to connect with so many more people, like even just relating it to our own lives. If you don't connect with them, like, physically, you still like have a connection of empathy, for the most part. I mean, some people are always going to be jackasses, and I don't think there's any way we're going to get rid of them.
Well, thanks for sharing this. This has been very interesting.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Just as we,
in the spirit of us all uniting and coming together, I will now play a 30-minute tambourine solo for everybody.
Play that tambourine.
Yeah!
Oh my
yeah.
That's
amazing! That was the best tambourine solo ever.
Thank you, everybody.
I was impressed.
Thank you very much. Be blessed, people.
Tambourine listening.
Thank you, Charlie.
All right.
Those were some great thoughts.
Yay! Yeah, I love the positive vibes.
Yes, it's good to have a perspective on our potential, as a species, not just our capacity to annihilate ourselves. I mean, so far we haven't. So far we've come all this way, thousands and thousands of years, to the point where we've invented the internet. I think it's a pretty significant turning point in our history.
Today we're going to be discussing, the internet. Thank you to Mad Max who brought up these really interesting ideas, and we're, to hear your thoughts on this. And the first part is the internet a living thing? And Mad Max, you'll be able to go into more detail about, what you mean by that.
I've heard different things of metadata being collected in order to analyze basically the collective subconscious of the 3 million plus internet users that are out there.
It's 3 billion, not 3 million.
Whether it be tracking Facebook or different social media sites, they bring everything together and they're trying to pick out what we are all basically thinking about, and not necessarily from an ad standpoint, but just to see what the collective subconscious is focused on. I guess basically my first question was, well, is the internet a manifestation of our collective subconscious, or was it our need to be connected that we already felt that gave rise to the internet?
Yeah, I've heard the term collective subconscious. Can you kind of explain what that term means, what its significance is?
Well, obviously we're all individuals. We all have our own thoughts and feelings on certain things, but maybe possibly, like the roots of redwood trees, that we're all actually part of one system already.
You're saying that through tracking our metadata, the internet could be like a manifestation of that, a representation of it? What do you think?
Well, I guess that was my question. It was, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is our need to be connected the reason why we use the internet the way we do, or is it the fact that we all feel the need for connection?
If you look back across, our entire history, I feel like that question could be asked at every single point. We first invented language, to communicate with each other. Then we invented the alphabet to communicate with each other across time. Then we became more and more literate, invented the printing press so that sort of communication would be cheap. We invented the telegraph so that we wouldn't have to be separated by so much time and distance. And now that communication is instantaneous across the world at millions of different points every second. It's just this connection has gotten faster and faster and faster.
What Charlie Chu was just talking about in terms of the future and in terms of evolving and getting through things, like maybe the collective unconscious that technology is facilitating is going to be the thing that keeps our humanity alive in the future.
I think what could contribute to it is the fact that all of the activity that's happening on the internet right now, all of the communication and all of our development as a species, as we are all progressing from one state of being to the next, like it's all being documented. It's all being recorded. Not all of it, obviously, but tons and tons and tons more than has ever been recorded before. Our metadata, our media, our blogs, our Facebook posts, our Twitter, those are all stored somewhere. We can look back at certain points in history now and say, this happened here, and connect the dots in a way that we've never been able to before. Another thing Charlie mentioned was being able to look at ourselves, and that's definitely a new way of looking at ourselves and kind of measuring where we're coming from and where we're going.
I do see that some people use the internet as a way to connect with other people, and it's a great tool for doing so. But I kind of fear that a very large percentage of users are just using it to validate themselves, not necessarily caring about the connection, just the validation portion of it.
Well, think about it, though. Why do
that need is being exploited as well?
Yes.
For sure. That's how we're advertised to and everything. But what is that coming from? Where's the need to validate ourselves coming from? What causes that?
I don't know. I think it kind of comes from media. We've glorified people for being famous. They're famous for being famous. And now we want to be famous just for the sake of being famous. I've got, 5,000 Facebook friends, and this post gets this many likes. Like the kid that did the Twitter thing for the free chicken nuggets.
I haven't heard that story.
Oh, you didn't hear about that? 18 million?
Just saying.
18 million retweets or something like that is what he got?
Chicken nuggets when Sarah's around.
But I think it's more validation, and it's kind of fueled by media, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of eroding away the humanity a little bit.
I guess I always compare it to a Facebook like is kind of similar to McDonald's, in the sense that, McDonald's is also capitalizing on the way that we've evolved to value the taste of sugar, salt, and fat. And when you eat it, you feel satiated for a temporary period of time, and then all of a sudden you're hungry again, and it's kind of addicting. And I feel like some of the ways that we communicate, like someone liking something on your feed or something like that, you feel that kind of value, and it's kind of temporary, but then you just post again looking for that value, and it kind of feeds itself and becomes a cycle.
Like an instant self-gratification of some sort.
Sure.
Yeah.
But when I see a post on Facebook from one of my friends, maybe they took a picture from somewhere that they visited, or they, created some content of some kind, and I click like. I click like because I genuinely value their content. Isn't that a real interaction?
I think it's more the fact that Facebook is able to define the parameters of those actions. So, for example, they added in that Mother's Day thank you thing, and then they took it away, and people were like, "Oh, they took it away," and someone's like, "Oh, that's just for Mother's Day." So in a way, Facebook is saying, "Oh, let's couch our expression of emotion with these 5 types of responses that we can do." They are going to determine how many of your friends see a news post in your feed and all that kind of stuff. And I think, I mean, getting back to this kind of idea of the internet being a living thing, it's a question of like, how, are these interactions feeding something that's greater than the individual parts? Like, is there this kind of overarching thing that exists because of these interactions?
You can monitor what the collective subconscious is thinking, or it could be a manifestation of it itself. It could actually make these decisions possible. I noticed that even memes in and of themselves are an interesting way to teach languages now, because of the expressions on the faces and things like that. So not only, something that started off as simply humorous is now being used to teach languages. And I honestly think it's going to bring a better understanding, a better cultural understanding, and it's going to really make us a global society.
I know that's something I would definitely like to see.
When you talked about the collective subconscious and the internet, it made me think of a book I read a couple of years ago called The Return of Quetzalcoatl, which is an odd book about
God, right?
Mayan.
Mayan, okay.
It talks about like the end of the world could be coming about, and it's an analysis of the Mayan calendar.
Okay.
If anyone remembers, 2012 was supposed to be the end of the world according to the Mayans.
I heard that.
The author opened up with something really interesting, and where he talked about a collective subconscious that has actually always existed, and it's just something that we're not entirely aware of or really have any control over. And it involves like our subconscious minds and sort of like a strange way of how we communicate with each other over vast distances. Like there's a mass panic in Europe, and all of a sudden a bunch of people of British descent in the US are suddenly nervous. What I think is that the internet could become like a medium for this collective subconscious to become more apparent and something that we are now suddenly more aware of.
That seems totally possible. I don't know about any an emotional disturbance in the forest is the first thing I think of when you describe that situation. But there are definitely like documented patterns for things like inventions and scientific discoveries that will happen simultaneously in the world between people that have had no contact, don't share a language. Like they'll often invent things right at the same time, and so it definitely seems possible that that sort of thing isn't new. But it strikes me as possible that the internet has accelerated it, like where maybe it used to operate across time and distance in a certain way. Maybe like right now, all of our interactions are so simultaneous across distance that it's interacting with us in real time rather than extended over the course of however, the space-time distances.
The telephone was one of them. It was invented by two different people at the exact same time.
Yeah.
One thing about that, though, the reason I think that we find inventions are being created simultaneously in different areas is because a need arises for them. If everybody's using bricks to build and they wanted to transport them easier, two people on different sides of the planet, if they're using bricks, they're going to say, oh, let's build something that we can move it with, and the wheel's invented suddenly.
Well, I think that could be a manifestation of it, though. Like, it doesn't have to be mystical either, because even the potentials and the needs are human creations. We reach a certain technology level, and that propels us into the next technology level. That seems like it could be a method of action by which that could occur.
It definitely doesn't have to be mystical. It could be completely practical in nature. And maybe, I think someone was talking about certain memories. Maybe this could be some completely unexplored avenue of science that we just are now happening across because we're noticing too many coincidences. Something like a blatant genetic memory.
If we get enough data to study that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, the data would be, to be able to study that would be really interesting. Okay, so let's say the internet is a living thing. What does that mean, like in the long term? Like, what does that mean for us? I mean, is there a way that we could live forever? Could there be some kind of digital manifestation of kind of an eternity afterlife kind of thing?
I'm definitely looking forward to have my brain uploaded to the internet. Yes, I mean, that sounds great. I do know, though, that I've seen writing out there about how as sophisticated as our technology is, it doesn't even begin to touch the something like millions of terabytes of data that are like constantly like being utilized by our brain at all times. I don't know, maybe we wouldn't have to use all of that because some of that is consumed by like physical functions, but then how do we isolate which part is the physical function and which part is the the soul or whatever?
And would your soul necessarily be more than what you were thinking, more than the sum of your experiences? Maybe if technology progresses to such a point that, okay, we can map all of your synapses and we have this computer right here that functions exactly the same way on a slightly different file organization system, even if all of the sum of your life's experiences and everything else could be downloaded into that computer, would your soul necessarily follow it?
But you'd have to answer the question of what the soul is first, and then that's a whole other thing. But I mean, even if I don't know, it strikes me as even if you were uploaded into a computer and you changed somehow, maybe you became soulless, but we're still a perceiving being. Maybe that's a evolution. Like that's a change. People change, organisms change. Like maybe that's a valid moving from one realm to the next. I don't know.
Instead of looking at it as a soul, why don't you look at it as a consciousness of existence instead of a soul?
Yeah, because I mean, you can't define a soul, therefore you can't prove there is a soul.
Basically, because you can actually scientifically prove that you're conscious about your own being, correct?
Okay, sure.
You're self-aware.
But you can't prove a soul, yeah. But you can be self-aware. So therefore, it may not be the exact same entity, but if you transfer your consciousness to a robot or whatever you move it to, technically it'd be the same thing.
Well, think about this. We definitely experience some kind of separation from our identity as conscious beings. I know that when I dream, even when I lucid dream, I don't have access to my memories of my waking life. I don't have access to any of my like conscious thoughts. But when I wake up, then I still felt like it was me experiencing that. I still feel like that was the same being as the one who woke up later. So I don't know.
And like you were saying, you can't quantify a soul because you can't, well, scientifically, you can't quantify a soul. And I understand that. But my question is, if you're downloaded into this box, is it still you perceiving it?
To answer that question, we have to answer the question of you. Like, what defines you? What are the boundaries of what you are?
You are only your beliefs. That's all you are. You're just your beliefs.
You're everything that is and isn't.
But see, I believe different things when I'm dreaming, but it's still me.
Given your memories would be you.
Yeah, it's like the teleportation thing.
Well, sure, but they don't even have to be the same beliefs from one moment to the next, right?
Well,
no, but the fact that you have those beliefs is what she's trying to say, is that you have those beliefs and that you can change them. That's what makes you you. Kind of like having a physical body. That makes you you because we can't transfer it yet. I mean, if we can transfer it, then there's a different thing that's still you. But because you can believe in a certain thing, or you believe of this or that, that is you.
So much to catch up on now with what I had to say. So basically starting with Mad Max here, with the whole introspective thing of the universe. When it comes to the universe being a subconscious thing and how it relates to the internet, he actually isn't too far off because many scientists, many astrophysicists have discovered that what they mapped up of the universe is actually matching that of an introspective mind due to the star systems and everything that exists that they found actually mimics that of a brain of an organic creature. Now, if you believe in evolution, like some of us do, you notice that a bunch of that has been mimicked from the universe onto the creatures that are each planet and seem to develop something of the universe as if that is the egg to the chicken and the eggs question. And if you were to continue that, and you go into a person's mind of introspective, moving on to, say, teleportation or to be downloaded to that, what you're worried about losing is your introspection of self. It's like a philosopher would say, when you take a picture of someone, it's taking that person's soul. What that means is that when a person's mind is transferred, you're not taking the person's mind, but a copy of that and digitizing it to that. So your introspective is being copied and mimicked to you, but it isn't truly you. But yet at the same time, it has all your memories, your feelings, In fact, there was a great Star Trek episode about that, where Jean-Luc Picard's number one got teleported, and a separate version of him was copied onto the ship, and he's been tortured and psychologically broken for a good 20 years on that ship when they actually discovered that there was a clone of him being trapped on this that never successfully got back to the ship.
The second Riker was finally discovered 2 years ago. He chose to use his middle name Thomas to distinguish himself from the other Riker.
The two men are physically identical in all respects, right down to their DNA coding.
This is a very entertaining story, but why am I listening to it?
And at the end of it all, what really makes a person? Is it their mind? Is it the unquantifiable soul? Are we all connected through the universe? Is there some kind of empathy we all feel for each other and we make some kind of neural connection? Or is it just the universe copying and pasting itself individually and we just mimic it?
I definitely like our own focus. We keep looking at the collective, and then looking like really narrowing down and looking at the individual and the collective and the individual. Like those things, those ideas are very conceptually linked and possibly spiritually linked.
Yeah, and the idea of neural representation of connection, that, we have neurons that fire when we make eye contact with other people and interact. So there is a physical embodiment of interaction and things like that.
All right, Kona, is that how you say your name?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to touch on the subject of memes that you had earlier. Just to add, the internet is a series of tubes. That is all.
Excellent. Great input. Very nice mimetic input there.
Going back a few little bit topics, back to the question of that came up was, is the internet alive? One thing it's maybe skewed by my own perspective, but I've noticed that's happening just in general on the internet, I would say in the past couple of years, is a steady rise of decentralized and distributed networks. Things like the sort of, especially the blockchain kind of technologies, and then other ones. There's two that come to mind, ZeroNet and IPFS, and they are kind of designed to be difficult to censor. Because, as I believe Charlie Tree mentioned, it's somewhat in passing at the start, that the internet is, or it feels like the internet is becoming more restricted and constrained. So, say the internet is some kind of living structure, and to constrain it would be akin to harming it. Could the rise of distributed, decentralized networks that run on top of the internet be a actual kind of like a sort of immune style response to that, but based on the fact that it's humans running the internet?
Like that idea.
It's an evolution.
But I want to ask a question. How does that resemble our brain? Is our brain, is that a decentralized network or a centralized network?
It's more centralized. I mean, things are connected to networks.
You're right, but so are like blockchain networks. Like the actual neurology of that. I mean, are there individual nodes that have are there switching stations in the brain that are like centralized nodes, or is it the entire brain working as one kind of across itself?
It's kind of like electrical impulses spreading along areas. I mean, this is not my expertise at all or anything, but from what I understand,
I'm a neurologist here, neurologist and blockchain enthusiast.
I actually do have a little bit of knowledge on that, only because I've had brain damage. Parts of your brain will replace other parts of your brains if you do not have the ability to use that part anymore. My back left half of my brain no longer works, but it's fine because over the years it's gotten better, which means it's repaired itself by using other sections.
That's an excellent point. And you can look at it on a couple of different levels, too. I think the easiest for me to understand would be like tall trees in the forest. If you chop a tall tree down in the forest, a bunch of small saplings sprout up in its place because that tall tree was taking up so much sunlight. If you bottleneck the internet, of course its natural response would be to decentralize itself. The abilities of the brain to adapt to adverse conditions are simply amazing. As he was saying, other parts of the brain take over for the damaged sections. So what necessarily went to your rear cortex or your frontal lobe can now be distributed over the entire brain in order to make it function more correctly.
Like Mad Max, is there any other element to this that you feel like we haven't covered yet?
Actually, my initial question branched out in so many different ideas in my own head, and then when it got to the audience, it branched out in even more directions than that. I was kind of astounded by it. But I think the conclusions that I came to, and this is going to be a lot of ifs here, if there is a collective subconscious and you can measure it by the activities on the internet, then I honestly think that after all that comes together, we will inevitably, as humans, become more connected. I think there's something intrinsically indomitable about the human spirit, and humans are social creatures to begin with. The modern internet would almost be akin to a library at Alexandria. Now, with everybody being able to connect to all that knowledge, I honestly see it leading us to almost a stateless society, and who knows, even maybe a one-world language.
These are really cool ideas. I definitely like the potential of them. If you look at the activity going on the internet, like broadly speaking, there's different types of activity, but at least in my internet habits, what I see a lot is just play. Like the internet, in a large part, is just an enormous playground, and I like the idea if we progress to the point where we can basically kind of live as kind of a connected culture. Like it could definitely just be like that could be kind of part of our destiny, because I know people love to play games. Like that's why VR exists. Like there are other applications for it, but that's why VR exists. That's why so many different technologies exist, and like it's just so we can all play games with each other. And I think that could have some deeper potential than just to kill time. There could be meaning in that if we play with each other, and if we have the capacity to play with each other, that satisfies so many of our social needs. And a collective subconscious, especially one that gets more and more aware of itself, could help facilitate that.
How important is playing to children, especially like earlier on in their life?
Yeah, I mean, play is, we were talking about the self and identifying and stuff, and part of what's so important about play is that you have an interaction and response, and even from very small age, we're just engaging in behaviors and experiencing our environment change as a result of our behaviors. And that interaction and exploration, which often occurs through play and imagination and things, is kind of how we form our identity and awareness of the world. And some people think our conscious existence is through predictions and action and kind of interacting with our world. So yeah, play is very central to how children kind of develop and learn.
This discussion has been so great. Like my mind is just exploding with so many different ideas and like thoughts about where we're going. We are kind of finally, woo! We are going to have to wrap it up pretty soon, but I'd definitely like to hear from Ghoster and Lautzi.
All right, so going back to the live internet, I kind of compared it to basically growing up, because it kind of sounds like that's what it's doing. It started out as an infant. You don't know anything about anything, so everybody can be there. It doesn't know what's right, what's wrong, what can be on there. And it's started to grow up, and then we're getting more restrictions because, it's like this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. So I think more of the question would be is what part are we at? Are we at, that teenage years where we've already been through the rebellious phase, or are we starting to get into the adult years where we kind of know this is what should be on there, there's nothing else allowed? And at what point do we have that midlife crisis where we go, wait a second, is this really what I am? Because that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like the internet is growing up to a point where everybody knows what the internet is and what it has, so therefore that defines it. So wouldn't that be considered an actual being?
It's a teenager.
That's an interesting anthropomorphization, because I don't know, I wouldn't even a being composed of the activities of millions and millions of humans, I wouldn't necessarily expect it to go through human psychology, but it is an interesting comparison. Like there would, like if it's alive, it's going to go through stages of growth and will have different kind of functions and ways of being.
If that's the case, it's definitely 13 years old.
Maybe.
Well, and I like that you put that, because you said a collection of people, and guess what we are? We're a collection of cells, that make up us. Each one has its own dedicated task. So therefore, can't you consider it a living being, because we have a collection of different entities in and of themselves that can run by themselves, but we all work together to do and complete a similar task.
Yeah.
I'd say with corporations, though, they're trying to aim. Like, did you hear about how they just like basically killed net neutrality? At the end of the day, it's a living entity. It doesn't have a point or a purpose. Its purpose is to grow or, serve whoever owns it. And at this point, it's not the people. It's the people who pay that want the money.
I think that goes back to the decentralized networks too.
Lousy, what do you got?
So I was actually going to jump back just a little to one of the questions we had earlier, because I think Sarah and I were having kind of a side conversation, and I think we were pretty much in agreement on this about uploading consciousness. Like Mad Max, I believe you had asked the question, is the uploaded consciousness you, and how could you tell that? So I feel like it's kind of the same principle as like Star Trek teleporters. Transporters, where the idea is when you really think about it, anytime somebody steps through a teleporter in Star Trek, they're actually being murdered. They're ceasing to exist and they're being reconstituted, but they're actually a clone of themselves. So it's just, the adventures of I think the way she put it is the adventures of perpetually cloned dead people. But I actually kind of feel that way as well, particularly about uploaded consciousness. I feel like if you could upload your consciousness, certainly it would be you in the sense that it would respond the same way that you did. It would have your memories. It would behave as you, but it would not be you. It would be a copy. You would essentially be you to duplicate yourself.
It would feel like
but you would.
It would believe it would
well,
you, right?
But you would still be you. There would be you in an upload and you, the original you. So the original you would not feel that you were in a computer. That original you would either still be around or cease to exist. As in, you're teleported, you would actually die. So, anyway, that was
of cloning myself and then having a conversation like with the exact duplicate.
with yourself. But I think that would cause a feedback loop.
There'd be a lot of silence.
No, I think it would be great because the moment you separate, you're separate beings and you're experiencing input from separate localizations.
Brain organization patterns are as unique as fingerprints, except for minor differences. Theirs are identical.
But can't brain patterns be cloned?
No. They're determined by experience, mostly from early childhood.
I am Will Riker. I don't know who or what made it back to the Potemkin that day, but it wasn't me.
I don't feel uploading consciousness is possible. I feel you could certainly clone consciousness, but I don't feel like, personally, that there is a way that we can move our actual us, the actual person that is me, can never be moved into a computer. I could
Whether or not you
exist.
believe it,
A copy of me.
I'm still doing it.
Oh, you think you are?
Who's gonna find out for you?
I don't know. I always thought like maybe a molecule at a time or a cell at a time. I mean, what are you? Are you cells or are you like your electric pattern in your cells? I don't know.
That's the same question. We keep asking that same question again. What are you? What comprises you? What defines you? It's a very good question. I don't think we're going to be able to answer it in the last couple minutes we have here. But Kana, do you have something really quick, and then we're going to wrap it up?
I just have to ask. What about teledidonics?
Thank you very much.
We forgot to talk about
it's not an episode again.
No episode is complete.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Thanks, Mad Max, for the awesome topic suggestion.
Thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate all this.
Should you want to
We should be able to get everyone up on the stage for a shot. Yeah, we should be able to get everybody.
Yeah, let's do a photo. Let's see. Let's try to be a network. How do we do that?
I'll connect you guys. I'm trying to connect you guys.
Okay. My tail. Somebody connect my fins.
1, 2, 3.
Mr. Meecheeks, look at me! When somebody tells me it's their birthday, I cannot let it go without a birthday song to create awkwardness in VRchat. So, happy birthday. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, and happy birthday to you.
change tonight. Death still faces me, but I'm alright. I'm alright.